Testing 1 2. Rick, I'm assuming you're going to let me know if this is not working. So testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Come on up. Come on up. Mitch. He's got a limit and everything, so come on. Yeah, just right in. All right, well, Rick tells me this is working, so I just want to say good morning. I appreciate it. I want to thank everybody first and foremost for being up here today on such short notice. It's truly a really significant moment, and I think it's a testament. I know as Mitch and our town manager will note with the late hours last night, I think a couple 2 in the morning. David, you may agree as well. Some late ones for sure. But it really is exciting to be standing here as Montclair takes a significant step forward. As you know, I have always been a staunch supporter of rent control, and certainly I think we all know the importance that it has for protecting our town's diversity and what this means for us moving forward. Prior to taking office as mayor, I was able to champion and move forward with my colleagues the town's first rent control as a council member, and certainly helped to support that my whole time as mayor in this position now as well. And it is exciting to see that as I stand here today, we are poised to pass a new rent control ordinance that reflects the hard work and commitment of the tenants organization of Montclair, the Montclair Property Owners Association, and certainly a big congratulations goes to both of those groups. Being someone who's been involved in many negotiations and started this process off as well and guided it throughout, I know that oftentimes it can be contentious. I think David Genova, who's standing here, and Mitch Kahn, who were some of the principals really working on this, would attest to that sometimes it can be. But certainly I know that as they went back to their teams, and you see so many of the rent control advocates who stand here with me, and I know that David had his team as well that worked on these things, they would look to find ways to find agreement. And that's always the mark of good negotiations and good work to move forward on something. So I want to say congratulations to both your groups. Thank you very much for all your work in this. The next thing I want to note, certainly as we move through this process, I am just happy that along the way, when you move forward with something that has never been able to pass in Montclair, despite all the years and years of hard work, we've got some advocates. I want to acknowledge Mr. Scott, who's here. Mr. Scott, thank you. Right, just for the years and years of service, pushing for rent control, advocating for why it's important, holding the meetings in town, having the conversations. He knows better than most how hard this process is, how hard it is to get over the finish line, and certainly all the steps that it took to get us here, introducing that first rent control ordinance ever, spurring the action needed to move forward on the conversations and get something done, all of the hours and hours and hours that people spent and the lobbying to get us to this point. It makes a difference when you finally see in culmination us get to this juncture and be able to stand here united today with an agreement that works for everybody. And this agreement does reflect the needed protections for tenants while being respectful of the owner's positions and needs as well. It includes rent control board, rent control officers. The board will produce the needed regulations, monitor implementation, adherence to the ordinance. There's formal complaint systems and other pieces in place. The standards of rent control, of course, and we know the caps in place to make sure that Montclair stays affordable and diverse for our residents moving forward as well. As we put all these systems in place, we are committed with our township manager and certainly the rest of the township staff to making sure this is done well and done right. And we know that, of course, as we move forward in this as well, the impact that we'll have on people's lives is going to be immeasurable. I do want to note also that despite some of the efforts and some of the willingness to give up on the township's position of making sure that we were not on the hook for all the legal fees, we were able to negotiate that as well. And I thank the Montclair Property Owners Association. Thank you for your work on that last piece that we really pulled together, which allows us to pay 40% of the fees that were accrued, and also taking from that half and putting towards a hardship fund for tenants, which I think was a mutually agreed upon position as well that we know will lead to benefits for tenants as well. And I think it was certainly a great move and conversation to have that last piece there. So I want to personally thank them as well for that last piece that we were able to put in place. I think this agreement sends a strong message to all of our residents and those looking to live here in Montclair that we do value our diversity, and often as elected officials, you show your actions through your budgets, through your ordinances, through your pieces that you pass. And this is an example with, again, a rent control ordinance that we have. One introduced first ever in the previous council, and now one that we're putting into effect. This is a lot of work, yes, but it is worth it. And I know that everyone standing here behind me would agree with that statement. I do want to specifically thank, and I've mentioned them before, I want to thank Mitch Kahn, who spent hours, and I spent hours talking to him. I do want to give a thank you to Joan Pransky, who is big in terms of a lot of the conversations in the legal piece. As I noted, the tenants organization of Montclair, TOOM has just done a great job as well every step of the way. Certainly whether it's Ahava, whether it's Tony Boyle, who's standing with us today, Deirdre Malloy, I noted Mr. Scott, and so many others. I don't want to leave anybody out, but I know how many hours you guys all put in and the team put in, and all of the tenants who are part of that organization. I certainly also want to thank Stephen Plofker. He was one of the individuals I sat down with originally to really kind of get this piece started, along with Mitch, and certainly want to thank David Genova, who's standing here as well, and all of the individuals who are working on their side of this conversation to make sure we got to this point. So I thank him and thank his team as well. Certainly want to note that. I want to specifically thank, it is sometimes hard to hold that line when you've got competing interests, but I definitely want to thank our Deputy Mayor, Councilwoman Schlager, Councilwoman Price Adams, Councilman Cummings, and Councilman Russo. As you know, even recently, they voted in a 6-1 vote to move forward in this process to make sure that we held the line on this and said, hey, we are not going to have an agreement unless it's an agreement that works for everyone. And we remain true to that every step of the way. There is no deals when somebody gets what they want and others don't. That's a process for failure. This, what we are setting up and was our goal from the start, get something that everybody can agree to moving forward. You've got to do that in a process that has defined parameters. You've got to do it in a process that makes sure we're committed to the framework that's laid out. And while, again, uncomfortable at times, getting to this point matters, and the end result matters, and we see that result here today. So a big thank you there as well for all of that. I also want to thank our township staff, especially Mr. Stafford, Paul Burr, our township attorney. Certainly, as I know, including late last night, going through. Deirdre, come on up. Just gave you a shout out, so perfect timing. So thank you so much for everything. Just the hours and hours that they put in, and again, Tim, especially last night. Tim doing double duty, rushing over to town hall to make sure we notice the meeting that we have coming up, even in the rain last night. So I'll take a thank you on that one for doing that work. And Paul Burr, specifically moving forward to get us the language that we needed, and of course working with the Landlords Council to get the writing of everything that we needed and getting that in place last night as well, and still working on it today in different pieces and aspects. Certainly. I also want to thank and every one of the residents out there, every resident who engaged in the conversation and stood with the commitment of saying we support smart, reasonable rent control. We want to find something that works for everybody, but we remain committed to that diversity of Montclair. That mattered. Your calls mattered. Your efforts mattered, and it also played a role in getting us to this place. I will also note, you may have seen, and know it's not a typo, we do have a scheduled meeting for next Friday at, I believe, did you get up 11:35 or 45, was it? 45. It's 45. So 11:45 on Friday night, we will have a special meeting. We got it in just under the wire. I appreciate, David and Mitch, you like nothing better than pushing it to the end, I see here, right? But getting it in under the wire so we meet the obligations. Sometimes you need that final pressure point to get things done, but certainly got us to that spot where we've got that. We will hold, as Mayor called for that meeting. It's been scheduled and noticed appropriately with all rules and regulations. We'll have that meeting, and at that time be able to repeal our previous ordinance, introduce this ordinance, and really put this whole agreement into effect and get us to where we need to be. So really excited about it. Some of the pieces I think we've kind of known, the caps that are in place now, the 4%, the 2.5. Some of the other pieces are great. The legal fees, as I talked about, getting us rent control where we just haven't been able to get this done before. That's what today is all about. That's really the excitement that I'm thrilled by. It's why I wanted to call these groups together here, all of us today, to say one thing, to say that despite, this is Montclair, right? Despite the conversations, despite the consternation at times, the back and forth, the push and pull, I've always seen as part of a process, you get a better work product when you engage in that. You get something that's not always fun while you're going through it, but you get us to a day like this. And most importantly, especially with people who have long-term commitment to Montclair and have had, you see we're all standing here because we are committed to this township. And I know everyone behind me is as well, committed to this township and what this means for Montclair. And being able to stand here, not with one side getting a win in whatever way, but with everybody saying, we've got to win together. This is a community commitment now, and we're all going to hold hands in doing that. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and appreciate you support throughout this process. And really, just because of so much time put in, I do want to give it's a little favoritism, I know, because it was hours and hours with Mitch, and you'll have David say just a couple words, but do want to thank both of you and just ask you to say just a couple words if you'd be great. Maybe David and then Mitch.
David Genova, Montclair Property Owners Association, a longtime Montclair resident. Happy to stand up here with my friends William Scott, Deirdre Malloy, the mayor, Councilman Iacobellis. Shout out to Councilman Hurlock as well, who isn't here today, who was helpful in getting these negotiations to the finish line. We may not have always agreed on the process here, but we always agreed that there was a problem. It took a lot to get us to this point, but I'm really happy we're here today, and happy that we can be committed to, as the mayor said, the diversity and inclusion Montclair is so famous for, and the reason we're all so supportive of this ordinance. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Mitch.
Hi, I'm Mitch Kahn, Vice President and Director of Organizing for the New Jersey Tenants Organization. And I'd like to thank Mayor Spiller for bringing the parties together to negotiate a compromise rent control ordinance. I think it's an ordinance which is fair to both landlords and tenants. And I think over a period of the next year or two, you're going to find that it's going to be a very, very satisfactory ordinance that serves the needs of both tenants and landlords. I'm glad that Montclair is now like one of the more than 100 municipalities in New Jersey that has rent control that protects its tenants. And so I want to thank everybody, council people that have showed their concern, but most of all, my team that has been working on this, Deirdre Malloy, William Scott, Tony Martin, Hava Felicidad, the work of the Montclair Housing Commission, the Montclair Landlord Tenant Committee, the NAACP Housing Committee, and most of all, the group that I represent and that's affiliated with the New Jersey Tenants Organization, the Tenants Organization of Montclair, which has done a fabulous job in terms of organizing its members and the tenants of Montclair. So thank you all.
Thank you, Mitch. Appreciate that. And Tony, did I say Martin before with you? I don't know if I did, but. Oh, Tony. Oh, okay. All right. So anyway, now you're full. So appreciate that. So again, a big thank you to all of you for the commitment here for what is Montclair. A big thank you to everybody standing behind me. We could not be more thrilled in getting to this point today, and we look forward to moving forward together, certainly as you heard. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.